Now it's the Wild. I've been watching the Wild. They faltered. The Twins, 14-9. What are they going to do in the next 10 games? But let's talk about the Wild. They won home ice, and that was the key. Everybody thought home ice was going to be the answer. But then the question became, who's behind the pipes? And no, not Aretha Franklin, not Mariah Carey, not those pipes. We're talking about the pipes on that ice, right in that little blue area. I watched the scrum, by the way, in the blue area last night, and I can't remember. I think it was the Blues must have covered up, and every single person, it was just about every single person was inside that blue area trying to push the ball into the net, or the puck into the net. And they blew the whistle, and then you see some sticking, you see some guys kind of jarring, you see some guys acting like they didn't mean to hit a guy, and they swing their stick, and you see the ref trying to break everybody up. Players looking like they're about to fight. My wife is like, she hates hockey now because after watching that game, she thinks they're jerks because every play or every time it's always a push. And I'm trying to that's enforcer. That's what they do. They're trying to intimidate. They're trying to lay on somebody, tire them out, put their body weight on them, get them out quicker. 90 seconds, you got to get them out fast because they're tired, they're gassed. I see guys losing sticks. But Sam, this is my problem. We talked about the big stars, Kaprizov, Fiala, all these big stars, Dumba, and nobody really did anything. We know there were some situations of rebounds because I tweeted out about it at I think it was at 3-0, and I tweeted out as a novice. I was honest, and I love the responses because nobody really treated me like a rookie. They just were explaining like, hey, I don't know if they're getting outskated. The puck's just not bouncing their way, or I don't know if so-and-so's playing bad. I think we're not as aggressive in the creases. And so as I start to look back, I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of see what you're saying. So now you're saying it's bad luck. We're just unlucky. They got all the bounces. We did not. 4-0 loss, to me, that's demoralizing. Home ice, so they get to play again Wednesday night here in Minnesota. It is the state of hockey. But Sam, if they lose this game Wednesday, I picked the Wolves in 6. That's going to be hard. They're going to have to rattle off 4 games in a row to even do that, for one. And then they're going to have to muster up the energy now because they're going to have to play must-win hockey. What is your thoughts? Cam Talbot, Fleury. I know that was the whole discussion. I've always gone with leave your guys that have gotten you here in the game, but they thought Flower was the guy. What do you think?
Yeah, so here's the deal on that. This was allegedly a competition. They alternated these guys back and forth, alternating starts for 2 months, but they didn't honor the results of the competition. Talbot was the better goalie. I mean, if you look at the April stats, got them right here. So this is the last month of the season. Talbot, 2.4 goals a game allowed, 91% save percentage. Fleury, 3.01 goals per game allowed, 90% save percentage. He was not as good as Talbot. His goals allowed in April, 4, 4, 3, 4, 3, 5, 2, 1. I mean, that's a lot of goals. He gave up 27 goals in April. So Talbot was the incumbent. He was on this team from the beginning. He hasn't lost a game in regulation in 2 months. And he was the better goalie down the stretch. And I know that Fleury is a Stanley Cup winner. He beat the Wild as a member of the Vegas team last year. He's got the credibility. But I've never known this coaching staff and this GM to go off of somebody's name. I mean, this is the team that benched Zach Parise last year. They benched Kevin Fiala last year when they weren't playing well or their attitude was bad. They cut Suter and Parise. They don't care at all about what your name is. They're more about results. So the fact that they went with the guy who, in my estimation, hasn't been playing as well, that's where I question the move. And to be honest, if they go with Talbot in game 2, I think that's the right move as well.
Yeah, and so I agree with you on that. That's where I looked at. That's what I thought. Honestly, I mean, and I know the Wild coaches don't look at Twitter, but from Twitter, the Twitter machine, as people would call it, Fleury was the name. Everybody was tweeting Fleury and the flower emoji, and Fleury was the name. And then everybody was so surprised when the acquisition happened because they're like, man, Cam Talbot, and this is where I'm going off of what people are saying. Cam Talbot's been playing fine. You know, it's an embarrassment of riches to have two goaltenders of that caliber. You know, everybody was just so excited about Kaprizov and where he was going. You know, the number of goals he was able to score, the number of points he was able to put up, the amount of ice time, you know, just everything. You know, he was a superstar. And, you know, I look at Sidney Crosby. That's the name that popped up in my head, or PK Subban. You know, like those were names that when people say them, everybody's like, oh, and Kirill Kaprizov was the headed, you know, he's heading there. Like he's heading for that, like, wow, this kid is really good. But the Wild couldn't get it done. And so when you think about that, the mix up of Fleury being in there, maybe the team was just thinking like, this guy's been there. He's a captain. He's, you know, it's like having Jordan on your team. Sometimes you look at Jordan. I think it was the Hornets game 1 of the series. If you watch it back with the Michael Jordan documentary, they lost the first game to the Hornets. And then the next, you know, locker room scene is Jordan with a bat in his hand and a cigar in his mouth. And he's talking about, let's see what happens. Like they were talking junk to us up. They get tight and they don't play well. Can the Wild take advantage of that and then parlay that into winning on the road, and then, you know, trying to get, you know, steal 2 on the road to come back up 3-1 and finish it at home at 5. Now that's my hope. I don't know if it's going to happen that way, but it's not saying that it can't happen that way, because maybe this was the rude awakening, because the Wild were playing for home ice. And I think they put so much energy into home ice. And I think we all did. We all put a lot of energy into home ice and how important that is. Same way the Timberwolves put a lot of energy into that play-in 7. Can the Wild, though, recover from that energy to win home ice and that exertion and that thought process of we got to win home ice, and now to realize we won home ice, now what are we going to do with it?